Right, so I'd like to welcome Rory Leonard onto the show. So Rory is the European Under-23 10K champion from last year and currently UK #1 on 5K on the road. So yeah, thank you for coming to join us. We've got quite a few questions and things about training and the future for you. So yeah, thank you for coming through. Cameron, I'll let you kick off, put you on the spot.
What a way to start poor Rory's interview.
What?
Well, you lead the where you want to go.
Well, Rory, I'll tell you what, I'll kick things off. I won't dive in too much with questions though, but you done the Great North Run last week.
Yes, congrats.
Yeah, so well done. It was a solid debut, I would say. I think everyone talks about when they run a half marathon about how we felt at certain splits and things like that, but being from the northeast and running the Great North Run, how did you find just in general like the race and the atmosphere itself?
Mate, unreal, but I wish I'd been wearing my Morpeth vest because there was a period of the race where Callum Johnson was he was catching me for a while before he dropped me. And so all I was hearing was come on Gateshead, come on Gateshead. And I was like, oh man, I wish I had my Morpeth vest on now. I might be getting a bit of help from elsewhere, but it was class. Yeah, it was just ridiculous. You watch it on TV and the support looks pretty special, but then when you're actually there and for the most part, it is literally just people on both sides going mental the whole way. It was class. It's tough for a bit of it because obviously the further you go out a bit, Newcastle shirts start changing to Sunderland shirts for a little bit, but apart from that, it's all right.
Yeah, there is a few quiet sections, but it was I also ran the Great North Run. We won't dive too much. We won't dive too much into that though.
Pound for pound,
#1, absolutely, yeah. But I found that even the weather wasn't great, but the streets were still lined with people, masses of people just cheering you on. And I thought that was a special thing about the Great North Run. I don't think you get that in any other races, really.
No, it's class, and it's just having people. It's raining pretty heavily. It's pretty bleak, and then everyone's out there in shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah,
it's class. There's just nothing, and there's nothing better than having Geordies the whole way, just sort of screaming at you. So yeah, it was an amazing experience for me. Obviously, had a bit of a rough last 3 miles. But in terms of just the actual experience, it was amazing.
Brilliant.
I think you probably had a bit of a shared experience with Jakob Ingebrigtsen at the weekend.
Well, here's the thing, right? He's popularized the do a first half marathon and have it go a little bit west, but he did go through 10K in 27:27, didn't he? To be fair to the guy.
Yeah, it's not too shabby.
Was that 2 days after a 15? Wasn't it as well?
So I'm sure it was a record as well, wasn't it? It was a national
record.
National record for 10K.
So yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, so I watched from the roadside, so I give you a shout if you noticed at about 4.5 miles in. And actually, when you're saying about the Morpeth vest or the Gateshead vest, once the leaders have come through, I can obviously pick out the leading men and leading ladies because I'll know who they are and you can see them coming towards you. But once you've got past about the first 50 men, they start coming so fast, thick and fast towards you that you cannot do anything other than pick out a club vest. So usually I say to people when they're running, I'll be at this point. So stick to the left, give me a shout, because usually it's people shouting at me, and then I turn around and I'm like, who was that? But yeah, it's definitely good to be in the club vest and get all the shouts.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to get Hawker to make you one. Why haven't you done that yet?
That's what we're doing now. That's what we're sorting out. But I think we've already got 5 different club vests at Morpeth, so we need to be careful about how many variations we end up having.
Yeah, I mean, it is important to have the sponsors vests because part of what we're doing in athletics, isn't it? You need to bring in some revenue and some attention to the sport. So we used to have with Puma, little Puma badge that we could stitch over. It had to be the right dimensions and stuff, so the didn't whinge. But yeah, that's always good. I enjoyed wearing a club vest, but with the other logo on there. If we can get away. Be good.
Yeah, that's it. You can't like you say, you can still do it with the regulation size, but obviously on some of our Morpeth vests at the minute, you'd have to be taping up one to get the other one in, and so it's there's definitely a good way of doing it. So me and Scott are going to try and get that sorted soon.
yeah, definitely when you're racing in the northeast. Anyway, because then people pick it out. So yeah, a few standout races from this year. Monaco, where you ran that 13:31, which is still the UK lead. I mean, I've seen that race in terms of the live stream. I've seen was it Cheptegei, I think, ran 12:50ish on it a few years ago. So yeah, tell us about that one, because is that around where the Formula One circuit is, and is it fast? Like a flat course?
It's not flat, but it is quick. It's kind of the first mile is quite hard actually. Because you do climb quite a bit, and so if you get people who are just like really aerobic and really strong, if you can almost cancel out that first hill by just sort of getting through it and then getting to the last 2 miles feeling all right, then it's really quick. But I think people do underestimate how hard that course is, because you do go up a lot in the first sort of like 2K, and then you kind of shuttle in lactic a little bit, and then you do come back down there, so you can finish like pretty quickly, and everyone gets out so hard every year. So that's the nice thing. Like, you've always got 10 guys who, as soon as the gun goes, they're going to kind of just hammer it from the gun.
Yeah, there's not many in that race. So like, I know a lot of people who'll be tuning in will be sort of aspiring to get to the top level within British athletics scene and wanting to compete internationally, and they'll be thinking like, how on earth would I get into a race like that? Because there's not that many people in. It's not really backed by a mass field. So yeah, how did you manage that? Is that off the back of last year?
So actually, Hoka now sponsor that event. So that's one of Hoka's events now. So we were lucky enough that it was part of their kind of French athlete weekend, and they were trying to get, you know, as many sort of athletes as they could get to go over. And yeah, luckily I managed to get a place on the start line, which was good. But you guys know what running's like sometimes at that top level. Sometimes you literally just need a lucky break, or a lucky chance to get on one start line. And then if you kind of take that opportunity, sometimes it just sort of comes through. But yeah, I think in that case, I was definitely helped by Hoka sponsoring that event for sure.
Did you think you were in that shape to clock that kind of time on the road?
Or
was it a bit of a surprise? Yeah. Because sometimes you have these runs and you're like, where did I pull that from? And other times you think, no, actually, that's where I'm at in training and things like that. So you didn't think you were quite at that?
I was pretty tired as well. Yeah. So we'd come in from South Africa the Sunday before that race, and Andy had said to me, you're going to land on the Sunday, and then on the same day, you're going to do a little bit of a track session. Then Wednesday, we're going to do an indoor mile. And then on the Sunday, you're also going to race Monaco 5K. Can you imagine how that conversation went? I was like, no chance, mate. That sounds really hard.
Yeah.
And then like, and this is why sometimes, you know, you got to believe in those who know what they're doing, kind of thing.
And,
Went and raced UCAM at Lee Valley, broke 4 for a mile, and then went to Monaco at the weekend. Didn't think I was necessarily in like 13:31 shape, but I knew I was sort of ready to go and maybe run 13:45.
Yeah.
You know, the roads can be a bit funny, and we got to Monaco the day before the race, and it wasn't the Monaco that they show you in the F1, like ankle deep rain kind of thing. Like, it was chucking it down. It was grey. I was like, oh man, this could be tough tomorrow. But yeah, dried up overnight, and then it was pretty quick the next day.
Yeah, great. So this year as well, you mentioned there that you ran sub 4 for the mile for the first time, so well done on that. But also PBs at 1500, 3K, 5K on the track and the roads, 10K on the track. Also went to the European Seniors after winning that European 10K last year in the under 23s. Yeah, you must be ecstatic with this season.
Yeah, buzzing with it, and it's, you know what it's like in running. Like, you achieve things, and then you're always looking to the next kind of. And yeah, it's been nice to sort of look back at this track season, and especially that earlier portion of it, and be really happy with how things went. Because there was just a lot of races, one after the other early, and then I got a bit tired after sort of 3 10Ks. But yeah, looking back at it now, it was running 27:38 was another race where I didn't think I was necessarily in that shape. You know, I thought if I broke 28 that night, it was going to be a massive achievement. And came across the line. I was just kind of couldn't believe the time that I was seeing.
How have you found your first senior GB vest experience of being at Euros and being surrounded by the rest of the seniors? How did you find all of that?
Yeah, it was like scary and inspiring at the same time, because it's people like Jimmy Gressier and guys like that who I've only watched race either on TV or at European Cross when I've been in the age groups, and then I kind of got there and we're warming up on the same track, we're going into the same call room, and a lot of these guys who I'd only really like looked up to, and so I think in future, I'll be kind of better at sort of leveling out that, looking at everyone thinking, oh my god, like these guys are huge names and have been for a long time. But I just took it as a great experience, like learn. I knew that I wasn't as strong as a lot of those older guys. Like, most of those guys were kind of 28, 29, 30, still 23. And so it was kind of a free hit where it was sort of get in the race, see what I can do against them. And I probably knew I was going to take a bit of a battering, which was fine. That was okay. And it was that a bit, but it was so eye-opening to see how relentless those sort of like 10K guys are, like what they can throw at each other during the race, like some of the laps that they're throwing in early on, late on, and then I think they closed in like a 4 flat mile after what was essentially an 8K fartlek. I think we went through the first mile in like 5:02, and I ended up running 28:30, and I was probably about 200 meters down on the guys that won.
Yeah, it was a great race to watch. It was a very good like championship race, and like you touched on earlier that training wise and racing wise, you and Scott mentioned when we spoke to him that you can do quite a few intense things back to back, quite a few races back to back, with a few days recovery or less than sessions on the same day if you're doing similar to Scott. We're also seeing this as a bit of a trend, like Mark Scott won the UK Champs 5K, 2 days later comes back and was second in the Great North Run. So how are you managing to do so much high intensity racing and training back to back? What do you think you are doing in training over a long period of time that's preparing you to do that?
Yeah, I think, when we're in a big training block, our Wednesdays and Saturdays, we're doing double workouts, and it's not like the traditional double threshold. Sometimes it might be double threshold, but very often we'll do a hard session in the morning, threshold in the afternoon, or vice versa. And so we are running a lot, and we are sort of running hard when it makes sense to. A lot of our running is steady running too, so we're not kind of like jogging around on a lot of our miles either. Like, we do run relatively hard for probably 60-70% of our mileage, but then also I think it's about like the way that we sort of periodize stuff. So when we're training hard, and we're stacking those weeks over and over and over. So then we kind of get to the races and we know that we've put all the work in. And so then, you can empty the bank a little bit, which is a great thing to be able to do. I put those 3 10Ks together in that season that were really good. And then after that, I was pretty tired. But yeah, even to sort of get through that race volume, it was good. But yeah, also we get to put in a lot of hard work as a group. And so I think it doesn't feel as intense as it sounds, because, you might be taking 1 or 2 reps a workout. It's not like you're doing it all yourself and you've got all that kind of, it's not as mentally tough as it would be kind of if you were doing it solo. And so I think that we get to race time and we just know that it's time to go, and we know that it's time to get those things done. And again, we trust Andy, and we know that we're going to get into the start line at the right place. And yeah.
I mean, the group effect is massive. It's I guess the psychology of it is, if you can see it, you can be it in some sort of way. So when somebody starts running well in the group, everybody else starts running well in the group. It's the strength in numbers, but also it's not, if somebody runs bad, everybody else runs bad. That's like diluted. If somebody runs bad, everybody else is there doing okay. So it doesn't bring the group down. But then, that one big performance lifts everybody up. So yeah, you usually see a trend in a group where they're all starting to go well. There's a load of momentum, and yeah, Andy's been incredibly successful at keeping that momentum going with everybody who he's coached for multiple decades now. So yeah, fantastic from him. And I know we've got some questions about going forward. Cam, if you've got any.
Yeah, I think you. Hello, Rory.
Just woke up now.
No, this is Plazy's fault because he didn't brief me before. I wasn't sure if he wanted to ask you about the top 5 series. But anyway,
if you want,
no, I'm good. We'll get on to that. You briefly touched on how athletes are always looking for the next opportunity or like where things are going in the future, the direction you're going. So how are you now that you've had 2 good years on the bounce? I'm assuming you adapted your training style a little bit maybe the last year, and you've had great success off that as you did off the year before. So how have you and Andy sat down and spoke about how you're going to adapt that and going forward for the next year, and where sort of you really need to focus on to maybe get to the final mile of the older lads and be able to drop that 4-minute mile at the end of a race? Have you and Andy sort of discussed that, and where do you see the changes moving forward within the next year that are going to sort of get you to where you envision, I'm assuming, where you want to go?
Yeah, so the nice thing about this year has been actually most of it's been base building. Like we haven't done any sort of ridiculously hard speed work or anything that would be so intense that you kind of think like, oh, I'm not really sure where I can move on from here. And Andy kind of makes sure that we know that as well, because like the first year working with him is almost learning the basics again and getting used to what those training weeks look like, because they're relatively consistent. And then he says himself, it's like each year we are going to build upon, you've got to be strong to utilize the speed, but you've got to be quick if you're going to run a 4 flat last mile on a 10K, right? Like you can't have one without the other. And so, yeah, for him, it's kind of, I mean, I trust that he knows what he's doing because he's been doing it for so many years. And he's also had the contrast of athletes from like Andy Badley running a 3:49 mile to having marathon runners. And so the nice thing is for me is that I say to Andy, like, look, next year I want to try and make that Tokyo World Championships team. And he goes like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do that kind of thing. And then he puts the plan together. And so there's a lot of trust in it. And I think that's always quite hard with runners, because I think we're all like, we all go through those phases where like you have a bad day or you have a bad race and you start sort of questioning everything a little bit and you're like, oh, am I doing the right things? And so for me, it's kind of, put a lot of faith into what he's doing and what he's saying, and then just kind of switch off and try and perform as much as possible.
And I think that's the group that you're in as well. If you're saying that there is potentially moments that you would question if you're having a dip in performance, being surrounded in that environment where you can bounce off the energy from others in the group and keep that momentum there, keep that motivation there, that helps you massively. How does this setup differ to the experience that you had in the US then?
Yeah, it's very, very different to what I had in the US. I mean, at Oklahoma State, it was very one size fits all. If it doesn't work for you, then like tough luck, you're here now. So you're in rural Oklahoma, try find a way out, mate. And that was very much the scenario I was in there. But here, it's pretty holistic. I can talk to Andy about any sort of training and anything I think I might need, and he's open to it and open to talking. The other thing is like I love my teammates at Oklahoma State, like they were all good guys, but I think just having like the 4 Brits together and then we've also got Ephraim, it makes for a great dynamic. Like we all get each other a bit more. We can go on camp, have a laugh, and when we're running, we're on it and we're kind of serious, but then outside of it we can just sort of have a laugh, which was the same at OSU a little bit, but not quite the same. And then the other thing that I quite like about having this group here is that our goals are like trying to make world championships and European championships. Like it's not about making like an NCAA final or something like that, which is fun and it's great, but like it's not. I didn't get in the sport to do that. Like I definitely wanted to experience it and do it a little bit, but that was kind of, when you're in a system where everything's tailored to that, it actually kind of caps where you can get to.
And is it right that you studied philosophy?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know why I'm laughing at that. Sorry. It's like, it sounds like a really pretentious degree, but yeah, I did English lit and philosophy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I saw that, and I wanted to ask you if you have at all found that studying philosophy has helped your overall general mindset, the bigger picture of things. Has that actually helped?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I'm not sure if I've actually sort of tailored it enough to my running. But the idea of continual improvement for sure is a big one, and try not be too sort of like erratic in thinking. I think I used to, when things went wrong, I used to kind of just be like, right, this is wrong. I need to jump ship, change setup. Something's not right. But now it's more of a like, as long as the curve is going upward, if you were to zoom out, then that's great. But no, maybe I should attach my degree a bit more to my running. That might work out.
I think you're onto something there, though, because throughout this, I've listened to you talk about like environment, training partners, and for someone who's 23-year-old, I think as an athlete, you seem like you've got a very like grounded, level head on your shoulders. So I think that you might not know it, but sort of subconsciously, them things that you've been tapped into and studying for years anyway are probably playing some kind of factor in that. One thing that I wanted to ask you, sort of related to mindset, a little bit, but linking in with the Top Flight series, is that what Chris is trying to do with the Top Flight series is obviously engaging with sort of that elite end of British road running, and trying to, get engagement with that and put quality races on. Now, there'll be a lot of people watching this, or when they do watch it, that are either sub-elite or maybe aren't elite and will never get to that point of being deemed as an elite athlete. Now, I would think I would class you as an elite athlete given your achievements that Chris has listed off there. What qualities do you think that you have that allow you to elevate yourself into that bracket of elite athlete? Because I think the transfer, I think you see a lot of elite athletes have similar traits, and similar qualities. What do you think you have a couple that stand out maybe that help you get in that bracket?
Yeah, I think there's definitely sort of seasons and sort of times of training where I'm able to switch off to like most of the things than training. I am quite able to, like, when I need to be really selfish.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, inherently not a great trait for a person to have. But I think as long as you're using it in the right way, it can benefit you and it can also benefit others. It's like if everyone in the group is selfish to an extent, it will benefit everybody. And so, yeah, I think that being selfish and making sure that I'm doing the races that I need to do, I'm doing the sessions that I need to do, and everything's laid out in a way that, like, for me, I'm going to get the best out of myself in a year. I'll do that because, yeah, I think, sometimes I've walked off a finish line and thought, like, I knew before the race that I shouldn't have been on that start line because I didn't feel 100%, and just sort of learning from that and being like, well, I'm not doing that again, kind of. And yeah, realizing that you got into the sport because you wanted to get the most out of yourself, and don't sort of lose sight of that kind of thing. And I think that goes across the spectrum as well, though, right? Like, it's, if people are running for fitness and for self improvement, like that's why you got into it, and that's a great thing. And so, prioritizing and being able to do that also is pretty important. And yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely using that degree. So yeah, I guess to well, a few things to wrap up. One is where do we go from here? So what's next on the super short term? So what are the current upcoming race plans, and then longer term, what we're going to see from you in the next few years?
Yeah, I think short term, I put in like a year. I would love to be on the start line in Tokyo next year for the World Champs. That is
that
conditional of British Athletics accepting points, though.
Yeah.
Because like I'm not going to run 27 flat. That's just not going to happen. But I might be able to run 27-20 low twice, kind of thing. That is a possibility, and then I might scrape in on the rankings. So there's that. I'd love to run under 27:20 next year. 5K needs to get down sort of like the 13:0s. So yeah, that's the nice thing about next year is just having that world champs. That it's another year of kind of a bit of a free hit of literally just getting better across the board, and not having to put too much in on any single event. And then of course Liverpool coming up. I'm gonna be doing Liverpool with everyone, trying to make that European cross team. A bit of a shame that they made it 7.5K this year at European
I
cross. I
didn't
think
know that.
that's quite interesting for senior men, and 6,000 meters for under 23 men. I mean, I'm not an under 23 anymore, but like I know if like last year, if you told me it was 6,000 meters, I'd have been a bit, yeah.
Yeah, bit short that.
I saw the
Why have
shock
they
on
done
your
that?
faces there that it was 7,500 meters.
Yeah, strange that one. But yeah, I know you mentioned the points then, not to like crash it too much with top flight stuff, but one of the things that you'll have noticed that we've been doing this year is we made sure that we've got all the races remeasured by World Athletics. So all the races do count for World Athletics ranking points, because over time, athletes are going to buy into the whole point system, and they're going to realise that, and hopefully we'll put enough pressure on UK athletics for them to start accepting the points in the rankings system. But yeah, basically, we are part of that. I know others are doing it as well. A lot of races aren't or won't get it because they don't fit the criteria. There might be like a downhill course, for example, even if they're popular. So yeah, I think it's important that we actually continue putting on, like, making sure that we get the World Athletics licenses for these races, because athletes like yourself are gonna need to do races that we're putting on in order to make those performances count. So yeah, hopefully we can see you in some soon.
Sorry, yeah, no, definitely. I think it's having just generally more opportunities, track or road, to actually have realistic shots at qualifying for championships, whether it be again like track or road, is a really important thing. And so it's great to have that, because when they are coming on kind of relatively often the way that they are for you guys, like it won't be long until, and again, like you say, once the kind of point systems get utilized, where you'll be assembling a field of guys who are like, we have to hit a certain amount of points, so we need to be at this start line, let's all get together and do it, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're hoping to achieve with the series here, getting people engaged, getting them the top level guys coming because they know they need to get the World Athletics points as well as a good race. Then within the UK, they can get the point system that we've set up, and the prize money to then engage the level below that, because we know the majority of people who are going to really engage with our series, or maybe not the hyper elite, which we would be putting you in that bracket now. Don't want to make you blush, but the next level down that most people would class as elite aren't actually getting into these world or European level races, because they're just that tier down. So hopefully we can cater for them, get the prize money, attract guys like yourself and Scott for maybe one-off races, or maybe we can get in multiple across the year, and that sort of brings the whole series up and caters for a lot of people in one go, hopefully.
Yeah,
Right.
no, for sure. I think it'll definitely be a bit more of a common thing that gets done, because again, like, you can't, the nice thing about roads is that you can have a bit more, like, it's more fun than rocking up to a track in the northwest. It's chucking it down with rain, it's windy, and I think you get a bit more out of yourself sometimes on the road. It's interesting. I think in the UK sometimes, like, you can get more out of yourself on the road than you can on a track.
Yeah, definitely. I think the pressure's off on the road mentally compared to on the track. There's no hiding place. So a small gap on the track of 4 or 5 meters, you can totally lose your head. Whereas on the road, it's really easy to just look at the next tree line or the next building and switch off for a chunk, even if you're sort of struggling a bit, and then you can back off and come back. It's really difficult to have a bad 5K. If you start feeling the pressure early doors, you're pretty much out. But well, anyway, Rory, would like to thank you very much for coming on. We can see that the time's about to run out on our chat. So yes, thank you very much for coming along. Hopefully we can see you in the Northeast racing again soon, or in some top flights.
Yeah,
Nice one. Yeah, cheers for having me, guys.
Cheers for your time, Rory.
See you in a bit.